Khaleel Muhammad is the UK's #1 solo nasheed artist. He released The Adventures of Hakim in 2000 whilst working for Yusuf Islam, and here he is today to discuss The Adventures of Hakim 2. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Right, for all the people that don't know, The Adventures of Hakim Streetwise Champion is the sequel to The Adventures of Hakim. Now, can you tell a little bit about that, about the old one and the new one?
Well, the old one was released a number of years ago, and it just follows the exploits of a young chappie who lives in London. You know, like most kids of his age, 13, 14, you know, he likes football, he likes Nintendo, Wii, and but at the same time, he's a Muslim. So what I want to do is kind of show his adventures. How does he deal with the local drug dealers? You know, how does he deal with the local bullies? As a Muslim, obviously with the understanding of the Sunnah, you know, how does he go through life trying to make a positive contribution to society and have to reconcile his life as a Muslim and as a kid, a regular kid who has holes in his trainers and who goes to the skateboard, you know. So it's really just looking at his life and having a bit of fun at the same time, and looking at his friends and see the dynamics between his friends, himself, and of course some of the protagonists in the story, you know, Sharky and Buckmaster and all these other characters.
So how did you come up with the concept?
Really, you know, when my children were growing up, you know, we'd go to Muslim bookshop and I didn't really see any material in there that really catered for their age group. And I don't mean stories like this is how you make wudu,
yes,
and you know, what do we say before we eat, Bismillah, which is all and good,
yeah.
But I didn't see any stories that addressed our children, particularly our youth, in a contemporary setting. Stories that dealt with bullying. You know, what happens when a child is in Ramadan and he has to go and break his fast and he's in the class, and what does he do? Does he keep quiet? Or, you know, there wasn't anything like that. What does a kid do when his friends want to go play football but he has to go and pray? You know, these, again, the dynamics of living in a modern contemporary society. I didn't see stories or books or videos that was addressing these issues. So I thought, you know, the best thing to do is to do my own.
Yeah.
So I just began to write my own stories.
So who would you say that this is aimed at? What's your target age group? Who are you trying to reach?
Over the years, I've discovered that children as young as 6 and as old as 30 seem to like it, which is part of my intention, because I wanted it to have multifaceted layers.
Yeah.
You know, if you listen to particularly the second installment, the sequel, you know, there are a number of story arcs going through it, which follow each individual character's experience and their particular story. And each story can be appreciated by different age groups. You know, all the characters are archetypes of a type that we find in society. You know, you have your kid who's been bullied, the archetype would be Abdullah. You have your kid, which is Shakira, who is not so self-assured but tries to show this brash exterior. You also have your misunderstood villain, which is Sharky, and of course you have your out-and-out villains, people like Buckmaster. So it's really to try and address all of those. As I said, I can see why it has appealed to such a wide range of ages, because each character has been able to kind of tackle issues that people in those age groups would appreciate and would understand and hopefully identify with.
So actor-wise, who stars in a...
The star, Abdul Hakim, is actually played by a young man called Abdul Hakim. But there were certain roles that we had earmarked for particular individuals. For example, one of the characters, Axel Blue, is a rap star. You know, I wanted him to be played by one of the brothers from Mecca to Medina. Abdul Hakim's father, Ibrahim, was played by another brother from Mecca to Medina, Ismail. Axel Blue's manager, Buster Cash, is played by Abdul Kareem. And Shakira is played by Ishidi Mason. She has the ability to mimic any voice that she hears. She can hear it a few times, accents, she can hear it a few times and she can mimic it.
Ta-da! Need some help, sis? Name's Hakim, Abdul Hakim. And you are?
Huh? The Abdul Hakim? The captain from Sharky off that train?
Yeah.
So what, bucko? Stay out of my way, Buster, or I'll throw you off something even higher.
Yeah, huh?
That's leading on to the next question. What made you choose people with different accents?
To introduce a feeling of realism, to give it texture. You know, we are a multifaceted society, aren't we?
Yeah.
You know, we are a melting pot, and I wanted to reflect that.
So how long did it take to create?
The sequel took about 2 or 3 years.
Really? That long?
Obviously, I had done it before, because I done the Adventures of Hakim 1, I did Muslim Legends, Salahuddin, I did Simple Guide to Prayer for Yusuf Islam. So I was familiar, Ace for Allah, I was involved in that. So I was aware of what it took, but because of the production values for The Adventures of Hakim 2 was particularly high. You know, we wanted to have Sham in the background, 786 and Ashkal Rasul as a backing track. We also wanted to make sure that the story had those contemporary landmarks in terms of, you know, I wrote the basic skeleton of the story, and then I had Ishidi Mason go through it and beef it up.
Is that a good way to say it? Beefed it up?
Because it is co-written by her.
Right.
I'm not trying to take all the credit.
Okay,
for
no,
writing
yeah.
at all. She did co-write it. She came up with a lot of the names. We wanted to give the reaction of the 6 major characters in something we call the mad interviews, where each character will talk about their experiences with drugs, their opinion on drugs, and how to stay away from drugs, and who is likely to be the victim of drugs.
Why do people take drugs? They are weak and not strong like me. Because of their puny lives, they will always have problems and try to find a quick fix to these problems. That's when drugs.
Then, of course, we want to have a number of bonus songs. And on the bonus songs, we have 786, Brother Dash, Ishidi Mason, myself, and Make It to Medina. Yeah. So you can see it was a very high production value. Yeah, so it took 3 years to do.
So would you say that you based any characters on anyone in particular?
I think Axel Blue is like a cross between Mick Jagger, Lenny Kravitz, something like that. Because originally Axel Blue, he was a rocker. He was a guitar heavy metal, and we wanted him to be. We wanted to kind of reflect some of the what they call Grebo or the emos. He was going to represent that, and he was going to be about committing suicide and being depressed all the time. But slowly he began to evolve. I think we felt that he was a little bit too off the social structure that Hakim would be a part of. And we wanted to kind of keep it fairly familiar. And I felt that the rap phenomenon at this point was particularly destructive. So we made him not only a rapper, but he's a rapper who's against Islam, and he has a bone to pick with Islam, and he has a bone to pick with a particular individual, Hakim, but there's also somebody else in the story that he has a particular beef with. So we wanted him to be more of a protagonist, create a tension between himself, Hakim, and this other third person.
So you do touch on many real situations within the story. For example, one of the characters, Shakira, loses her dad and questions her religion, which is a very strong concept for anyone to deal with. Do you know what I mean? And I think a lot of people do actually go through that. And then you've got your drugs and the consequences of taking them. So how did you come up with the storyline and the characters themselves?
Some of it, yes. Some of it was from people that I'd known who had experimented with drugs and had come off a lot worse for it. Some of it was stories that I'd heard, on the news, online stories, what have you. Shakira, again, as I said, she's an archetype of those individuals in the society, Muslim or not, who have gone through a particular traumatic experience and begin to question their very existence, question the nature of who they are, why they are. And because she's a Muslim, of course, the major thing that she's going to question is her belief in Allah. Why would Allah put me through this? Why would He allow my father to be killed, the only person I really loved? So she began to question herself, and she decided, look, I'm not going to pray to Allah no more because He hates me. So she began to blame everything that happened in her life, which was negative, on herself and this. So it was really something that I'd seen in society, and I felt no one was talking about it. And I thought it was something that should be put in there.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So Shakira, it was hard to write her part because it is quite heartbreaking what happens to her, and she hides it all behind a mask, this tough macho kung fu mask, and she will kick butt and really go for it, but in the inside she's very fragile, she's very insecure, which again is something that now that I work in the school now, I see that in so many of the children that I work with. So
what do you hope what is it that you want to achieve?
It's so ambitious really, because yes, I do want to touch on the social issues of rap and bullying. Abdullah is suffering from bullying and he's trying to fit in. I do want to talk about sibling rivalry. I do want to talk about estranged fathers from their sons, and of course at the same time I want to have fun with the stories, because it isn't all about doom and gloom. It's about hope, it's about believing in your convictions, it's about believing in Allah, and it's about being good citizens. And I hope that we've struck a good balance in terms of hitting the correct social points and yet having the characters believable. You don't mind listening to the heartbreak of Shakira, because there's something more to it, is to give kids another alternative, and this is just another expression of art, another expression of culture that different people can access. If they're not into the issue, they can access social issues through a story in this way.
Lovely. So that leads us perfectly to say, have you got any other ideas in the pipeline?
I've just released a new single, Falling in Love.
Well, thank you, Khaleel, so much. Thank you.